r/AskReddit. What was the black market in your high school? The cafeteria, not school run, kind of just a cafe inside the school, would charge $3 for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So one girl kept the ingredients in her locker and charged $1. When the school caught wind and shut it down, they tried to guilt us all by saying how the cafeteria was someone's livelihood and we were taking away from that. But like, $4 for peanut butter? Honestly though, $4 for a PB sandwich? No thanks. Our high school had an internet filter. An enterprising friend of mine set up a free BSD server in his basement and put together some 256 millibars flash drives with an executable version of Firefox. Could run directly from the flash drive without installs and a SSH client. You could plug it in, connect SSH, then use the server as a proxy for all the Firefox traffic and get around any website you wanted. Those flash drives were a hot commodity, let me tell you. You could set up in the library and just start casually browsing a banned website, and people would start coming up and asking how you could do it. T83 calculators. Everyone had to have one and some people could not afford them. We had one guy that was known to steal them from other students and resell to people that needed them. The theft was so bad that the administration bought an etching tool and we had to etch our names into the calculators. It all came down when the supplier sold a kid back his own calculator with his name on it. The kid got in a fist fight with the supplier. Bad fight. We broke it up and administration came running in. They picked up the supplier's backpack and he had like 50 calculators in it. He was expelled. He was also really dumb. He is currently in prison for trying to hold up a taxi cab with a squirt gun. Cab driver pulled out a real gun and called the cops. My school ended up banning soda because it was too sugary. They replaced all the soda vending machines with Gatorade and started to serve only fruit punch and pink lemonade in the cafeteria. So my band teacher started secretly selling soda out of his classroom. The classroom was by itself on the far end of campus, so no other teachers were around. The band students spread the word to other students, so he had a nice stream of customers, and he used the money to buy band equipment since the school wouldn't fund him. Band, theater, and art shared a budget with sports, so of course sports always got all the money. So, you know how every high school has a trench coat kid? Well, the trench coat kid at my high school would open up his trench coat to reveal dozens upon dozens of sewn-on pockets stuffed to the brim with snacks and candies. He had them organized like shelves at a candy store, 2 gummies on the inside right breast flap, trolley eggs on one side of the second pocket from the lapel, beach rings on the other. He sold snacks for half the price of the vending machines and would add the cash to this giant wad secured by a rubber band in the only interior pocket on the trench coat. Also, everything he sold was that kind of rare and coveted varieties of snacks that you only find in that sort of occasional, unassuming gas station you stop at the beginning of a road trip but can't find again on your way back. He also had popular snacks in packaging I've never seen anywhere else, like comically miniature Takis that came in a dollhouse-sized bag. Went to a very strict boarding school that essentially prohibited most things, so a black market existed with practically every student having their own product speciality, from music, to potato chips, to drugs, to porn, to candy, to books etc etc. I was the soda guy. You wanted soda, I had you covered. Soda bought for $1.50. Sold to students for $2.50. A backer. The really intelligent kids with excellent rapport with teachers would charge $5.20 to cover you when you ditched a class. Highest I paid was $38.63. Haggled down from $75 to skip school entirely so I could go on a date. He just lied for me in every class and marked me as present when he was told to take the class attendance list to the receptionist. I'd say at least 4-5 backers were functioning for 10-20 people each day. I did it for one day and made $130. Got caught because a kid's parents called in. The next day he cracked and ousted. Took 3-4 months before that market recovered. So many jobs lost. TLDR. Private school kids have too much money, so they spend more to not attend the private school. Handballs. Went to intermediate school in a coastal city where kids were ducking nuts for handball. The school wasn't very big, so every once in a while kids would hit the ball in a weird angle and have it go flying onto the roof. Lost for eternity. For reasons I won't get into. During lunch I would volunteer as a garbage collector, picking up people's plates and dumping them out, packing up the garbage bags, etc. I became really good friends with the janitors, and so one day I mentioned to them how the roof was probably the holy grail of handballs. The next day one of them handed me a huge trash bag filled with handballs that he had picked up from the roof. For about a month I became the most popular kid in school. I sold cup noodles in my locker because we didn't have a very good timetable for lunch. This didn't happen in high school, but rather in elementary school. Every few months we would have a book fair type of thing at school, and every time I bought a Pokemon book, by grade 3 I had about 6 of them. I started lending the books to other kids in my class, and they would read them instead of paying attention. The teachers caught onto this and started banning the Pokemon books. This just increased demand. In order to keep track of who had which books, I gave all of the regulars book cards that they could trade. One of my friends who somehow always had candy saw a market there, and so I told people they could also trade in the Pokemon cards with him for candy. We created a currency and we were the mint. Eventually the teachers traced it back to us. Some of them laughed, but our main teacher was pieiced. Shit was cash. Yo. I was one of the first people in my high school to get high-speed internet. My computer had a 2x CD burner, and Napster was going full swing back then. So music. $5 for a burned CD with whatever songs you wanted. I made a pretty decent amount of money. Maybe $40.50/week. For about a year, it beat mowing lawns and shoveling snow. That's for damn sure. Condoms, oddly enough. Can you tell I live in a small town in the Bible Belt? Hell, you could get the things for free from the health department. But damned if people didn't recognize each other and talk. Same with buying em in stores. Hell, my ma didn't care. We'd take my sister for her depot shot. I'd pick up a paper sack of condoms, sell them for 50 cents a pop to the junior high kids. Hell, it's how I paid for art club fees and money for the trips. It was actually me. I started a piracy ring sophomore year and it continued until I graduated. Essentially we had a massive stockpile of pirated software, movies, games, etc. Anyone could join, on the condition that they kept it quiet and they made sure to add stuff every now and then. Anyone who didn't contribute was eventually removed. And by the time I had to shut it down there was probably over $6,000 worth of stuff there, with around 8,100 active users. The school eventually started getting suspicious about all the software floating around and I didn't want it getting traced back to me. So I nuked it all and left no evidence that led back to me. I was always super hungry, but I was never given lunch or lunch money, so I started stealing packs of biscuits at home and trading them for the bits of people's hot lunch that they didn't want. The thing is, no one else's parents ever bought these shitty ass cookies, but everyone loved them. So I would be able to get a lot of food in return for a few cookies, which was nice. You might ask why I didn't just eat the cookies if I was that hungry. Well, they're also what I had for dinner at home, so it was nice to get some variety and a vegetable into my body once in a while. I graduated high school in 2011. We had senior shirts, but this guy's design was rejected because it was going to say sexy, SE for seniors and 11 for 11. The school didn't find that appropriate for a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds, so they rejected the design. He then went and started selling the t-shirts himself after our senior shirt came out and it was ugly. Everyone started to buy them and wear them on our free dress days. The administration was in an uproar about it. Eventually all the seniors were called to a meeting where the principal screamed and cried to us about these shirts and tried to embarrass the shirt maker. But we all hated the principal, so no one cared. It's not a black market per se, but our school has a folder that is shared between all desktop computers in the district. Its name is the Student Shared Drive. This folder has been there from elementary school, and maybe even before. But recently, our school decided to give Chromebooks to every student. This has left that folder completely unmoderated, allowing people to put a lot on there without repercussion. Last time I checked it, it had a GameCube emulator. This was middle school, but anyways, my teacher was selling candy for $1. I bought in mass, Sold for $2. I was a dumb idiot and gave some friends candy loans and they never paid me back, so I went bankrupt. Capital F. I'll put the TLDR at the top, since this is a long read. Haha. Obligatory on mobile. Sorry for shit formatting. Blah blah. TLDR. Started a candy dealing operation in middle school. Ended up becoming the kingpin of a mob of 12-year-olds. Made sick money. Got threatened with prosecution. Mom stopped buying candy. I dealt in candy and soda. The vending machines at my middle school were ridiculously overpriced, because every penny above a certain dollar sign amount would go back to the school. So for example, if a can of pop was usually $1 in the machine, the school would charge $1.50 and get to keep the 50 cents. Instead of doing the less greedy thing and making it barely noticeable, like 20 cents more per unit, they decided they didn't want kids eating candy at school anyways, so they skyrocketed prices. $2.50 for a can of pop, $3 for a candy bar, etc. So I beat the system. I'd go to the dollar store with my mum, where candy bars were like 60 cents each, and buy boxes at a time. I also bought flats, 24 off soda, which ended up costing about 50 cents a unit. At first I wanted to do it all myself, so I sold them for $1.50 each, essentially doubling my money after I paid taxes on the product being purchased. It was great for a bit, but it started to grow too large and a little bit out of control. This school had grades 7 to 9 in it, and was from a rural area, so basically every kid went to the same school. There was probably 500 kids between the 3 grades. In the end, I basically made a mob. LOL. Instead of selling the candy and pop for $1.50 each, I contracted my friends from my small village to help me out. I sold them the candy and pop in bulk for $1 a piece, and told them they could do whatever they wanted with the candy. I'd sell them 10 units for their lunch money. Then most of them would sell that all at $1.50 a piece, use the $10 for their lunch, and have $5 to buy more candy and soda from me. I was probably profiting close to $50 a day at the end. It was very impressive, until the police showed up and the school called a massive assembly. Apparently selling candy and pop without some kind of license permit is illegal where I live. On top of that, they said, out loud, during the assembly, that whoever was in charge of the scheme essentially created an illicit gang and that legal consequences would follow if it wasn't stopped by the following Monday. They also sent out a letter to every parent including the details. No names were mentioned. Thanks to my strong bond and the blood-like relationships with the boys I grew up with, we all agreed to end it and keep our mouths shut. It also didn't help that my mother refused to take me to buy cases of pop and boxes of candy after she read the letter. Looking back, it was all kind of a farce. I don't think they could have prosecuted 12-year-old me for it, but my mom wasn't willing to find out. Holy damn. I was expecting innocuous stuff like the Pokemon cards or Beyblades that were traded on the down low at my school. Boo, then I realized this question was for high school rather than primary or middle school. By the time I hit high school I was nowhere near cool enough to be involved in a black market. Sexual favors. When I was a junior, they caught several girls trading blowjobs for money in the auditorium. I never got involved, gay guy here, but my classmates still talk about it years later. I dealt in homework, maths homework, got me a nice amount of money and other things like candy, sometimes even homework from other subjects. I hated French, so I had a guy that did my French homework and I got him my maths homework. We had a kid named Makeel. You didn't go to him, he came to you. Most days he would slide up and just offer you some candy at a good price. One day he had a PSP on the market. The best deal came when he had packs of Reese's Pieces. Market must have been slow that day, so when I said no to $1 he haggled himself down to 10 cents. Edit. After thinking about how 10 cents candy got me 500-ish upvotes, I remembered that it was not Makeel. It was Demetrius who cornered the market. This will date me a bit, but hacky sacks were a big fad my freshman-sophomore year of high school, and they were sold out everywhere. My grandma used to knit and crochet, so I asked her to make a bunch for me and sold them for $5 a piece. I turned my grandma into slave labor. Lunch passes. Y11s could leave school at lunch to go to town. But you needed a few good things to get them, so one boy began making them with his mum's laminator for everyone who didn't have them. Trading nudes like UGR cards. VHS porn tapes. They were innocuously labeled so grown-ups wouldn't be suspicious. Hey, can I borrow the Tyson Douglas fight? That was a porn called Bad Girls with a young Ron Jeremy. My school had a gum dealer. This was in early 90s high school. Dude had his backpack stuffed with packs of gum and it was emptied daily. His parents owned a convenience liquor store, so he had easy access to supply. I'm guessing he took 100% profit and his parents took a 100% loss. Or his parents were like, sell these. I remember his name. I wonder what he's up to or what he's in for these days. I'll have to look. Edit. Looked him up. 11 court cases. Looks like mostly traffic. But a few marked TR and JM. Not sure what those are. So apparently some 9th graders in my high school were selling tasers at some point. What the duck? Not necessarily a black market, but at my middle school we weren't allowed to chew or say the word gum. Being a bunch of preteens, we found it funny to call it the stuff. Middle school is where I learned how to discreetly chew gum. Elevator keys. Our high school had 2 separate 4-story buildings. It was probably good for our collective health, but it sucked running from one to the other on short breaks. There was one elevator in each building, reserved for A. Teachers, B. Disabled students, and C. Injured students. Elevator key borrowing, stealing, renting, copying ensues. Fireworks on Halloween were a huge thing in my town. Canadian town in BC. We were all underage, so the black market for fireworks and firecrackers was insane in the weeks leading up to Halloween. Most of us went to this one guy who took them from his dad's shop. He never wanted money for them but straight barter system for other goods kids couldn't get. So the month leading up to Halloween everyone would go around town gathering cigarettes, beer, weed, etc. to barter. Man, that kid made bank. He never really worked but had cigs and other goods until February-March of the following year. The Wi-Fi password. People shared the Wi-Fi password around. They would secretly write it down on pieces of paper or tell other students quietly. I was one of the first kids to find it out and I started to spread it. Not really black market, but we used to gather for poker in middle school. Damn, I miss those times. My friend down the street ran a black market. He sold knives and other cheap weapons that he would buy in a rural area. He also sold drugs on occasion, and at one point he sold a Kevlar vest. The black market was nudes of literally like every girl in the high school. What happened was that there was an Instagram account with every girl's nude who went to my school, but the account name was just a bunch of random letters and numbers, so no one could find it and you had to be added to it. So what people did was they would go to the boyfriend and say that if you send him your GFS nudes, he would add you to the account with everyone's nudes, and it escalated to the point where everyone's nude was there. The thing is, no one could discover it from the administration since the account was random letters and numbers and everyone that used it graduated, so no one knows what it is anymore. Junk food of any kind. Some of the teachers got into it too. In fact, the whole thing was run by the orchestra teacher off the books. Not really a black market as such as one person, but still. When I was at school my friend used to bake these bread rolls, as well as cheese rolls and things like that, and then sell them to other students. Seemed harmless enough, but he was so terrified of being caught, despite it not being against the rules, that he decided it would be safer to call them mice. So instead of teachers overhearing a student selling bread rolls to other students, they would overhear a student selling mice. To this day when I think about it, it still makes me chuckle. He would go up to people and say, "Hey man, you want to buy some mice?" Then go into his bag and bring out a variety of bread rolls. He's in medicine now. Don't really know how I feel about that. I would forge parents' signatures on people's homework and tests they failed. $20 a piece. I made fairly good money doing it my junior and senior years. Butterscotch. It got banned in the end. Drugs and burnt CDs. Yes, I'm old. Schoolwork and take-home exams. I made a killing back in high school putting my mind to work. Game Boy cables to trade Pokemon. In elementary school, whoever controlled the silly bands control the world. Selling cigarettes one at a time to younger classes. They usually were either too stupid or mathematically impaired to realize I was selling them more expensive than it would have been if they actually bought a pack. But most of them would have trouble with their families if they learned they were smokers. In my country, teachers don't really care if you smoke in school as long as you don't do it in the front yard. We even had a teacher who joined us in smoking sessions and trashed our low quality cigarettes, insisting cigars were the only smoke products that were worth it. To be clear, I did not start this trend. It was common practice in my school and we never encouraged such behavior. It was just common knowledge we were selling. I sold a bootleg CD to a kid. This poor kid had his Eminem Show CD stolen right out of his locker. I just burned my copy of the Eminem Show onto a CD and sold it to him for $5. I was the one who'd stolen the CD out of his locker. I was hoping to be able to take it, burn it and return it before he'd even notice. But he noticed between classes and we were both hanging out in the smoking area and he immediately mentioned it. I had just made myself the bootleg during programming class. So I sold it to him right then and there straight out of my backpack. I made myself a second copy and put the original CD back in his locker a few days later. He really needed to use something other than rope to lock his locker. I wasn't a good person. I created a supply and demand. I was a mafioso for a day. We had a big burger market. The school didn't sell fast food in the canteen, but there was a Burger King nearby. So every time when Samum had a bit of free time, he would go there, buy some cheeseburgers and sell them between class with high profit. This kid always got the craziest stuff. One time it was these energy drinks from Japan. He sold them for $1 and everyone bought them. Another time it was cookies. The greatest were these weird nuts that he said were like chewing tobacco. I don't know where the kid got them, but everyone wanted them, since they were a substitute for chewing tobacco, which would get you in trouble. Basically, you would chew on these walnut looking things because it was only a walnut and we couldn't chew tobacco, but they make you salivate like crazy, and it was a dark, thick saliva, not to mention it made your entire mouth go numb. So we all tried them in class, and there were about 10 of us, with numb mouths, drooling tar. I don't know what they were, but it was a wild experience. In NYC public schools every month you will get a cutting card mailed to your house. It's basically an index card that lists all the classes you didn't attend that month. Like if you were marked present for 4th period algebra but absent from 5th period global history, that history class and the date would be on the card along with all the others for the month. My friends and I always had cutting cards being sent home. Sometimes you got lucky and could sneak it out of the stack of mail before a parent saw it. Usually not though. One day a friend and I were walking home expecting to get grounded for the weekend because it was cut card day. We happened to run into the mailman and asked if he had the mail for our respective addresses. And he did. Score. We were so happy we actually cheered and high-fived. He was very confused. So we explained what the cards were and how much trouble we got in because of them. He charged $20 to not deliver them anymore. Duck yes. Best $20 I ever spent. But he didn't stop delivering them for just us. Anyone who lived in my community stopped getting them. My friend and I were heroes to our peers and legends to the younger kids. My brother 5 years younger never got a single one. And he was unenrolled for missing so many class. My parents were pissed. The mailman missed out on his own ATM. Every kid would have paid $20 to $100 to stop getting them. Back in high school we were asked to use Casio Graph 35 plus calculators in math classes, or an equivalent calculator, with scientific functions in it. These calculators were known to be programmable with a simple language, so you could code your own programs, even games, or download programs from the internet or from your friends' calculator. Think link cable for calculators. Sort of. Each time we had an exam where the calculator was allowed, there was always a guy that made programs that actually contained the lessons, the formulas. In short, a huge cheat sheet as a program, and a lot of people who sucked at maths wanted him to share his stuff, so they used to bring their cables and download his programs. At this time, teachers weren't really aware of the programming capabilities of the calculator. That was a pretty much new feature. They didn't really check what you were doing with them. AskReddit. I still have it with me. It saved my exams many times from high school to college uni. Here is a pic. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.